Good afternoon. Once again, let me wish all our friends here a very happy Women's Day, today and every day. There have been a lot of discussions, and I was just contemplating on what should be the central theme of today's discussion. And we decided that the best thing is to put some spice in it and then challenge the two enormously successful and absolutely wonderful school leaders sitting by my side. I sometimes feel threatened in their presence. To try and look at the challenges that are coexisting in this particular space. While we celebrate women leadership and we acknowledge the fact that there are more than men, there are women leaders in the school education landscape. The same thing is not true across the world. So we have multiple reasons to believe a lot of data that tells us that. So the World Economic Forum talks about the C-suite, positions among the corporates, the best countries, the Fortune 500 companies. Most of these areas would have not more than 20-25%, and some of the data also tells us that it is less than 10% when it comes to CEOs of companies. When that is true, I would also say that the journey that you had, both of you had, towards this leadership may not have been all that easy, and it comes up with a lot of difficulties. Balasubramaniam sir definitely started off his note by saying, quoting from Manusmriti, and said that Yatra Narestu Pujante Ramante Tatra Devaha iti Manu, and then says that where women are celebrated, the gods rejoice. This is a beautiful argument that sets the template. But is it true that women are celebrated everywhere? And did you find this journey daunting as you moved up your career ladder, especially as an educational leader? So it could have been absolutely wonderful for you, but then we would like to know from you and for you to share this experience with us.
Happy morning to all of you. This is Dr. Meenakshi Ramesh, thanking the Almighty and thanking Dr. Brahman and all the intellectuals and distinguished people sitting. And it has been a real treat listening to all the words that has evoked a sense of points to ponder. And I am sitting here with a clean slate of mind. And with the question that Dr. Bhavani Shankar posed as to how was your journey climbing up the ladder to reach this leadership role in the field of academia. And recalling my personal experiences, I feel that never I even imagined that I was always a leader at any moment. Because certain opportunities were thrust on me, believe it or not. And it so happened that, like how a duck takes to swimming, I had to learn, I had to understand myself better each time. And there were moments when I was ridiculed, or there were moments when I was not confident on my own performances as a leader, climbing up from probably playing the role of a lecturer, then as an academic supervisor, teaching the 10th and the 12th standard students, the CBSE students, then directly took over as a matriculation school principal with all first generation learners. Not knowing much about what a leadership style should be to be heading a school as such, and then becoming a principal of a CBSE school where there are only fishermen folk children, and then transferring my role as a principal of a school where the students were all fifth generation learners. I used to even wonder, am I a misfit in the chair where I'm sitting somewhere? No. Then I had to build in that confidence to myself. the confidence in myself, irrespective of whether I'm seated there as a woman or a lady or a male member, which is very, very important for a person to take the onus on him or her to say that to receive the bricks and the bouquet, with the same intention. It took a lot of mellowing down in terms of introspecting and saying, Meenakshi, it's okay. You enna panna pora? And the crisis that I felt at all different stages, and people at home were really motivating. They were really motivating. And as many of us said, all our parents were just 8th class passed, and probably I can say I was the first generation learner, doing my doctorate when I turned 65 now. Okay? And the very spirit of, I think we heard from Mr. Rangarajan sir, learning, the thirst for learning. And I used to think of situations when the crises were of different types and different occasions. And it need not be the same kind of crisis every time. Even the smallest quantum of crisis sometimes may surmount to be something very huge in your perception. But as you start becoming to introspect and think of solving these situations, playing the role of a leader, taking the honors on you, you are responsible. And the Damocles sword hanging on the top of your head, where you have to take everybody's well-being into your custody. It can be any component in the school governance, right? I used to think of a situation from Mahabharata where Arjuna could focus with his eyes blindfolded and still could target at the fish with the reflection of the fish that was revolving on top of his head. And that was because of the focus on what needs to be done. So many a time I would say, Meenakshi, focus. Like how Mrs. Rukmini said on the mind, body, everything should be together for me. I cannot carry a tortoise shell. The other story is there. I would want to share that little later. So that focus was not there when Arjuna was in the battlefield. Why? He was a great archer. He was a leader in his own way. And why was he shirking away and shivering and saying, oh Krishna, I will not fight now? Why? Because of the emotions, because of the attachments, because of the feelings that he had with the members in the Kurukshetra war. That was a crisis. I used to think on these lines and say, come on, it's okay. People are now ridiculing me on some aspect or the other. God has given me 2 legs. Let me get up again. And this kind of a self-correction mode at all angles was standing as an example for myself. To be walking ahead, moving ahead, learning at each moment in a different style, that fascinated me. And I would say, even as teachers, when they walked into the class, I used to tell them, you are the leaders. You think that you're the leader walking with that confident smile, the confidence in your knowledge, the confidence in your transaction, and let that inspire your students to imbibe the leadership skills. We talk about the leadership skills. I have to become a follower. Like there is a saying, it says, a good leader, difference between a leader and a boss. I think many of you will know that. A boss will say, do it. There is a good leader will say, hey, come on, let's do it. Come on. This I also experienced because I'm a theatre person, right? So while enacting a small play, it was a war between Russia and I think Ukraine or something. I played the role of an ordinary woman who were asked to play the role of a leader, taking all the housewives to participate in a worship role. All these kinds of participation in different activities made me feel very confident that it gave me perception from different angles to tackle and calm myself down. And when there is a need to ask for help, never hesitate to ask for help. There may be experts in different fields. Share your problems. There are people with better ideas to help you out, but then have the trust in the people from whom you want the suggestions for you to be proving as an excellent leader. So everyone is a born leader. Have that confidence within you. And I have to become responsible for even coming to this gathering in the morning with an initiative to reinvent myself, rededicate myself as a leader. I think at home everything fell off well and everybody motivated. And there were occasions when I had a lot of issues at home, but somehow when you decided to go somewhere, you started dreaming. I think we talk about women power, empowerment. It is me as a woman. I have to decide to go. I have to get up and go. That becomes a basic quality of holding a leadership role. I have to get up and go. No one will give you an opportunity. No one will say, hey, you are the leader now. You lead. I have to take it upon me. I have to be a little pro in approaching all the aspects. Then I become a leader. I don't have to be waiting for somebody to say, you are the leader, you do it. No, it doesn't come that way. So these are the small learnings that have helped me in overcoming, but I've enjoyed the opportunities that fell by me. And sometimes I created the opportunities myself to lead the way also. People have already created the pathways. Then what should I be doing? Something more in terms of creating more leaders. And that's the beauty of learning and working together, listening to people. இதில் கூட ஒரு ஐடியா இருக்கு. இன்னைக்கு நான் வந்து இந்த ஏல என்ன பண்ணணும்? Everyone is talking in the morning. Like there are no trainers available to teach the students about STEAM education. What should I do next? And that enthusiasm, the drive within you to become something need not be always a leader. You become a leader all by yourself. You lead your own way, the way you want to. And you are going to be a shining star. So this is my experience, sir, and the crises have been different at different occasions. Thank you.
So that was a very good insight into the journey that you had and how you position yourself as a leader. Now we have Ms. Vijayalakshmi here. So you've grown through the experiences of being a teacher and becoming a leader. Now that this journey has also moved on to take bigger leadership responsibilities in the system. So when we listen to Akila telling us that, hey, you know what, the parents are actually discarding their responsibilities and outsourcing a fundamental responsibility of theirs to school, I'm squarely placing this as a problem that the schools have created for themselves. So we have a lot of school leaders, and from our own experiences through the multiple parent-teacher meetings that we have, if we are to ask all these school leaders here, how many times have we told the parents not to worry about their children and we will take care of them? Just a show of hands, please. All of us, and that's possibly the biggest mistake of our lives. The minute you say that we will take responsibility, the parent happily places the responsibility on your. So with this, so you're burdened with multiple responsibilities. I would like you to relate your journey to the leadership, navigating through the expectations that the parents have created for you. And you as a teacher, you as a coordinator, you as a school head, and now you as having a directorial responsibility, you would have found several challenges through this journey. And how did you manage to push these aside to ensure that the leadership takes some purpose within your schooling environment?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bhavani, for that question. And my greetings to all here, and special Women's Day greetings to all the women sitting over here. And I must begin with this. When I forwarded my daughter-in-law, when I said that I'm going for this event as a panelist, she wanted me to share the invite with her. I did. And immediate response that I got from her is, I think in this meet there are more men speakers than women. Luckily, at the panel, at least you are two of you women and one man. So that's the status of women everywhere. And though we say that um, women are almost dominating in the field of education as leaders, but the challenges are very, very different from the perspective of a woman and a man. Most of the time, what I have faced, one expectation, not only from the parents but also from the management and also from the your colleagues, is many a times you being empathetic is misunderstood to be very weak. That's one of the challenges we've always, because being a woman, we definitely look into any challenges, especially when it comes to children. Empathy is something which guides our decisions, but sometimes the parents may not look at it that way. They may think that you're weak. I remember in my early years of being a principal, there was a fight between two little students of class 3, and it's all of us, all principals here would admit here that most of the time these are all not actually between the students, it's between the parents. It's behind, off, outside the school gate. It's the scuffle between the parents, the ego between the parents. And one of the child's parent was a was in the police department. So they really arm twisted me to go and lodge a complaint about this 7-year-old child, that he pushed the other child. But I said, what was the need for that? And you know that fellow, what he did was he got the local, the assistant commissioner of police or somebody, and he got a letter from him saying that I'm not taking any action against the child. Okay, but then I had to really go out and explain to the child, to the parent, that it is not that I'm not able to take an action, but that child is also of the same age as that of your child, a third standard child. It was not intentional. While climbing down the stairs, he just happened to push him. Maybe sometimes he might have done it even purposely also, but doesn't mean that he had any other motives in his mind. So it was very difficult, because he started telling me that I've been very soft with that. So many times it's not only with the case of the parents, but also even the management sometimes used to think, all, not only me, we do have a lot of lady principals in our schools, and most of the time we are all, when we really think think many times before taking an action, we are always misunderstood to be weak rather than being looking at our empathy. And that's one challenge that I have faced, that I'm sure all the principals over here might be facing. Okay. And other than that, yeah, in a world which is designed, or which is predetermined by men, it is very, very difficult to prove yourself that you are much more capable than many of them. And I remember way back 25 years ago, when I was a PGT teacher, I really wanted to break this glass ceiling. And when we had to take students out on an excursion, class 11 and 12 students, I was a PGT at that time, I went and told my principal, let there be no male teacher accompanying us. Let us go on a all ladies trip. Just for the sake of assisting the boys' children, you just give me one male attender. That is enough. I went and told my principal, but I really thank her for having the trust, reposing faith and trust in me, and allowing me to take that trip. And I must say that that gave me a lot of confidence and motivation to prove that I can do this myself. It is not that every time you don't have to ask help from the male. So I'm not saying that it's wrong to do, but at the same time, it is traditionally, historically, we have always, though women are in leadership positions, most of the time they are expected to play a second fiddle to men. There may be somebody above him, it may be the management, it may be the government, it may be whosoever it may be. But you are always expected to play only a second fiddle. You're not allowed, you're not really empowered. I won't say allowed, you're empowered to take decisions on your own because you are bound by, in the name of maybe social customs and norms and traditions and practices, whatever you call it to be. So I felt that that glass ceiling has to be broken, and I'm very thankful to my principal for giving me that opportunity, because that gave me a lot of confidence. From there on, I could accept any challenge without any hesitation. And more so, when it came to my teachers also, they every year they used to come whenever I never appoint a male escort for any educational trip. Every time, promptly, the teachers would come to me, form a group, and come to me. Why are there no male there? I would say that try. What will happen? Anything is there? I'm just a phone call away. You call me anytime. I'll see to it that every arrangement is made. So that is how I could also empower our teachers not to depend on somebody else for your own abilities. So you are going to take the trip on your own abilities, not on the ability of somebody else who's going to accompany you or not going to. You really don't know whether that person would be of any help to you or not. So that is one challenge that I always faced. And another challenge that we faced, I have faced in this, I do not know how many of them will appreciate me for saying that. But then I feel that it is a forum given to me that I must really say that. I was also the chairperson of Sahodia a few years back, and today sir is the chairperson. But my experience there was totally different, because I remember one incident where we had to go and meet a CBSE official at Delhi. And then we were told, we too were ladies, and we were told that you don't have to go because you are a woman. You are a woman. Why should you go? We will go. So that was really hurting me. Though then I said that, see, we've been doing all these things for our school. For our school, no male member, nobody comes. We go. If I have to meet any guest, I only do it. Why should you not allow me to do? But then still, even at that level, when you climb the ladders, you constantly face these kind of barriers throughout. Still, I think even this happened 3-4 years ago. I'm not talking about an era which is not existing now. Even now, 4-5 years ago down the line, I had this experience. So that period of being a chairperson, it was very, very clearly told. It was very clearly indicated to us that you are required to play only a second fiddle. Though you may be a chairperson, I don't have any hesitation in admitting here in this forum. I do not know how many of you will appreciate me for that, but I feel that it has to be, because I don't want that to happen to the others who are going to be in that forum later. So I think it is only, and I remember the words of Indra Nooyi, she saying in one of the interviews that it is not enough that you break the glass door for yourself, that you have to keep breaking those glass doors for the people who are for the women who are going to come behind you. So I think that we need to keep doing it, only then things will change.
That is remarkable. See, for the want of time, we will have these rapid fires so quickly, so in the line of what you just said, I'm placing one another typical stereotype, right? You're in a double bind, and when the challenges are that you need to be absolutely decisive, you are very aggressive. But then when you need to cooperate, you are too soft. This is something that has been imposed as a problem with women leaders. Your take on this stereotypical charge. Because this is the charge that, see, you would see it in the media, you would see people talking about it. You say that when you have to be decisive, no, you're too aggressive. But then when you have to cooperate, no, you're too soft. So this is exactly what happened here. I'm just taking that as a reflection.
I think I cannot stereotype or brand the style of my functioning. It depends on the context and the situation. When I have to be firm, I have to be firm. When I have to be little more collaborative, it depends how intuitive I am and how I know the people who are with me, the workforce with me, and the goal, the purpose. That's going to make me take a decision of either being a very firm leader or becoming a very collaborative and at the same time a very affectionate uh, so-called leader, right? So that needs a lot of understanding of the members. We all talk about emotional quotient, social well-being, emotional well-being. Much depends on the goal first, then the temperament, the individual abilities, your own ability in making a cohesive effort and then taking a decision firmly. No, this is it. Or the it could be the end goal that decides. It's in the interest of the institution that I may have to be firm at times. I have to be. It depends on the situation and the context. I cannot say every time this is the leadership style that will work. No, sir. Thank you.
Absolutely, Katrina.
No, this is what I have experienced
No.
many a time.
I'm just asking Ms. Vijayalakshmi now. So, did you ever experience of being passed over, especially when you say that there are challenges for women leadership? So, when the platforms were equal, when the leadership capabilities were well demonstrated, were there instances where women leaders were not considered for a particular space and the same was given to an equally deserving man?
Yeah, maybe I didn't experience it personally myself because I stayed in one institution for a long time. But then I have heard my friends say that not only leadership, I remember one of the teachers telling me when she went for an interview in a very, very well known school in Chennai, where every parent dreams to put their child in and every teacher dreams to work there. And when she went and appeared for the interview, she was just married for 2 years. And the management demanded her to sign an agreement saying that I will not get conceived in the next 3 years. Only then, yeah, I'm not joking. It is truth. It is truth. Okay. I will not get conceived in the next 3 years. Only then that post would be offered to you. Otherwise, it would be given to another person. And she said, for a person, another male who is not as deserving as her was given that job. So it was really, it is happening. So we think that it's not happening. Times have changed. No, times have not changed. It still exists, but maybe it is not openly pronounced. But then it happens behind the doors. It still happens. So whenever a lady comes, I have even seen in my own school, some correspondents, some managers ask the question, you are unmarried. So if you marry and go away, what will happen? But today, most of this is normal question my manager used to ask all the unmarried girls when they come for interview. That may be very genuine, not with any intentions, just to check whether they would continue in the school or not. But most of them have the courage to say, I've seen most of them have the courage to say that, no, I will see to it that my husband stays with me. No, I will not go with them. Many of them have the courage to say that.
Lovely. So, I just want one closing remark, very crisp, because Brahmam sir is a little anxious now to close. So, if you have to redesign the leadership pathway, what is the one thing that you would like to communicate to the emergent leaders and other people here, and through what you say, you become their mouthpiece so that you can communicate this? One thing that you would like to redesign.
See, I think I mentioned about a small story. It will just take 1 minute. I cannot make it one line now. It's a Aesop fable. All of us have heard about the tortoise and the hare, right? I presume the hare is the male member, right? And they all have their thing to run fast, and it's a running race. Who could even think of sleeping amidst running a race? But men folk can do that. Yes, I'm sorry for saying this, but it's just a small, comparison that I would want to do. But as I think my co-panelist rightly mentioned, that many of the women folk here will agree, and even I too agree, because of the culture, the tradition with which we all have been brought up as Indian women. The tortoise knows that it's going to participate in a race, right? Why should it carry that big shell on its back and run the race? Don't think otherwise. How will it take it off? Don't ask me those questions. I know that I'm going to run a race. I could have removed it and still ran happily faster than the hare even, right? Or the tortoise. Sorry, hare. So, what I want to say is all of us have this impediment of getting back home. I think one of the speakers also said, reaching home, whether wantonly or unwantedly, we are aware of our this, I have to do this, I have to do this. It's somehow ingrained in us. So let's all become aware of how to remove that shell and run the race, right? And I have always seen the academic dominance being kept up by the women folk. That is already there. But then the dominance at the corporate and the other political level is not there, right? Why? That's because I've seen all IT recruiters with the base of the pyramid. They take in all the young women, who do better. They say, no, women can perform better. They can perform twice the quantum of the work the men can do. Imagine the base of the pyramid is filled with 75% of all young ladies. Yeah. So when the position comes in the middle, like how he asked, my one word would be, when your promotions come, when your responsibilities are risen up, you say, no, I can't travel, like how my co-panelist said. So the middle of the pyramid is being removed by many of the female members there, and at the pinnacle, what you asked, only those male members exist. So my one word would be that being in the academic area, we have all had this academic dominance. Let me at least show a finger to those people who still need this academic dominance in the path that we have all traveled by the earlier members who have created it for us, a very beautiful path. Let's do that by lending that helping finger to lift them up. Thank you so much.
Lovely.
Yeah, I would say that one thing which all of us have to keep in mind, let's forget about our genders. Let us be gender neutral when it comes to the roles and responsibilities, electing leaders, giving responsibility to leaders. Let us not be judgmental. The society is very judgmental when it comes to women leaders. So let's break that and give opportunities, mentor the young leaders, give them the confidence that you can do. I think all these things will definitely bring about a change. Do not have to insist upon whether you are a male or a female, but forget about that and then encourage talent, whether it's a male or a female. I'm sure that over the years, these gender stereotypes would also vanish from the society.
Thank you so very much for that engaging conversation. So, I would specifically place on record the sincere appreciation to both of you as wonderful school leaders. And the message that I get as a moderator here is that, so come what may, we are all in this together, and the journey into the education leadership need not necessarily be determined by genders. And the challenges that coexist, see, where we know that because of certain patriarchal approaches to leadership and engagement, need to give space for competencies and what people are really worth. So on that note, I would thank both of you once again, and thank Mr. Brahman for giving us this wonderful opportunity to engage.
Thanks for the opportunity.